God bless you and welcome to the Hour of Power. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we have no other choice to be glad in it. We thank you for tuning in. We thank you for watching. It is with Jesus' joy that we come with to you, and we thank you for your time. We're coming to you live from the store of Healthy You Pharmacy, where Sister Jada is the president, and we just thank God for all of you and this time that you have allowed us to share with you. Please take some time to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family that the Hour of Power is on, that NJ Television is live and in your living room. Please take time to go in the chat room. Let us know how you're doing. If you have any comments, concerns, or questions, let us know right in there, and we will get a chance to get to it. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your contributions. We pray that God will continue to keep us because that's the kind of God we serve. We serve a big God. We serve a mighty God. We serve a magnificent God. And I say all the time that an incredible God deserves an incredible praise. And if you can hear my voice, then God, you owe God an incredible praise. Again, we thank you for tuning in. We thank my wife for being with us. Uh, um, she was not with us last week. She had some business to take care of, and we thank our state supervisor being with us. Um, Beautiful as always and knowledgeable. We have a very professional panel for you tonight. Please forgive us. Last week we had some technical difficulties, and we hope that tonight we have that all taken care of. Also, last week we had Sister Chanel that was with us. She's a school teacher, and we had a lot. Thank God for her. We had questions and comments. So, if you have any questions or comments pertaining to school and anything about school, just write them in the chat room. And she is also our, what do you call it, our technical advisor, production manager. She can answer those questions for you. Again, we don't want to take it lightly. We thank you for your time. We thank you for tuning in. And we hope that all is well at your house. Let us have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. We thank you for our life, our health, and strength. We thank you for providing for us. We thank you for taking care of us. We thank you for looking after us. Now, God, we pray for this session that you would be in all that we say and do. And God, we be so ever careful to give your name the praise. These things we ask in your name. Thank God and amen. Again, we thank you for tuning in. And I thank my beautiful panelists of professionals being with us. Um, and for the last 15, 16, 17 weeks, we have been talking about the corona COVID-19 virus. It is so much that has been said, so much that has been done, so much that has been talked about. We hope that we have been um, a good place of information for you. Um, Again, we never want to present or fear, but we want to give you some arsenals of things to do uh, that you can apply to your life, and also things that we can pray about and go to God about. God, at the end of the day, God is in charge of us all. So we just thank you all for tuning in. Last week we talked about the schools. Um, and so if you have any questions about the schools, please write in the chat room and we will get to those questions. This week I want to talk, I have about 4 topics or subjects that I want to speak about and talk about today. The first subject is they're now telling us that the risk of surface transmission is now low. Um, Remember, they first told us to wipe down.
Right.
Then they said, don't wipe, just let it dry. So we go from there to now that the risk of surface transmission is low. So when this first started, you couldn't get into Walmart or a grocery store with someone meeting us at the door saying that I wiped down your car. Now you can't find nobody. And so now they're suggesting that transmission is low from surfaces. In my opinion, it's just another ploy to make society feel normal. They got to make money. This virus has took a big toll on the economy. The economy has taken a big hit, and now they're trying to present a scenario of everything is normal. So if I can get you to feel like everything is okay, then I can get you back in the store spending the money. In which that's just a ploy. I mean, it's so much has been said. It's really hard to now distinguish the truth. And what should I do now? Because yesterday they said do this, and today they saying don't do this, do that. You know, Trump was on talking about drinking bleach and just and just in Lysol and putting ultraviolet lights in your veins. You know, so it's so much has been said to make you, in my opinion, to make everything feel normal, get you back in the stores, to get you to spend it. And I think we need to still be careful. If they're not wiping down your cart, then you should be wiping down your cart. And we should not just leave it to the opinions of society, the opinions of the officials, because they're after one thing. They're after the dollar. So I think we should just be mindful of the evolution from March and then September. The evolutions of, oh, it's really bad. Now it's not that bad. Well, if it was really bad and they shut down, a few months later, it's not that bad and they need to still shut down, then we still need to be careful. And so if they're not wiping down, then we need to be wiping down. What would you all think about that?
I agree 100%. I think a lot of it is about the economy and the impact that this has had on people being comfortable going out and getting back to their business as usual, as we say. And you think about the cost to those businesses that have to pay to sanitize those carts or, to hand out those hand wipes. If you think about it, when you first started seeing it, even with that, you could go in and get your own. And then you see them doing it for you, or they were cutting them into little pieces, So it's about cost, it's about spend, and it's about them just wanting us to get comfortable getting back out. And I do agree that it's not the primary means of transmission or mode of transmission. It is more likely for you to get it from direct contact from another person, but that does not mean it still doesn't live on certain surfaces, for certain periods of time. So I don't want people to think that they're okay going to the store, being exposed, and then going and not washing their hands or using a sanitizer because they're sanitizing. It's not as much of a risk.
And I think that this is a time when good common sense just kind of kicks in. Because since the virus hasn't changed any, then anything that they've said has not changed. So just continue using common sense, wisdom, and prayer.
Yeah, it's funny, and maybe funny is not the word. It's sad that the spectrum has changed. So, I think they first came out and said, just wipe down with the disinfectant. Then they said, don't wipe it, let it dry.
Or spray it and just let it sit there.
To now, nothing.
Yeah.
So that, lets you know that we will remain vigilant and careful for ourselves.
You can compare that to the change that's taking place with masks. In the beginning, oh no, only healthcare professionals need to wear masks. There's no need to wear masks. And now you can't go anywhere without a mask. So that just tells you that, things have changed and evolved, and they're not giving us the full story in terms of what they know about the virus and or don't know about the virus.
You're right, because they were saying that you needed that N92 or N74.
Right.
Now you can make it at your house. How do you go from needing the N95 to you can make it at your house? And so
You can take a bandana,
I can just take my shirt and pull it over my head.
You gotta cover it with a sock. I was like, well, it was not a clean sock.
And so, and he left it right there. But so it's very important that we stay focused.
Right, absolutely.
Because there's so many things that's been thrown out there, and it's comical because you come out and say I need the N95 to now whatever materials you have at home just wrapped around your head. That's comical, but that's the information and the spectrum, the range of information we have been getting, which lets me know that they're not telling us everything. And I think we said that on our first stream, that we need to listen to what they're not telling us. And so it's not okay not to protect yourself. And if you need to wipe and disinfect, that's a part of protecting yourself. We can no longer take the word of the media because the media has something else behind
hidden
agenda of why they just said what they said.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is they'll take that stand and they'll stand behind it.
Oh yeah.
And they'll fight for it.
Oh yeah.
At your expense, at your loss, and it's really all about the dollar. It's all about money.
And then tomorrow they're like, well, we really didn't mean that. Well, what about the lives that was lost? And so we have to be careful and focus on what they're not saying versus so much the things that they're saying.
That even ties into them wanting to get the kids back in school. It's financially motivated. That shows when you look at these campuses that are having these outbreaks with over 1,000 students in less than a 10-day time frame, with positive cases. So if it were truly safe, this wouldn't be happening. If they really have something in place to prevent the spread, this would be happening. And not only that, they didn't have a plan for what to do if it did happen. They sent those kids home. So what do you think happened from that? Now you have 1,200 cases spreading into other cities and infecting more people, taking it home to their potentially elderly parents or grandparents. So, there's a lot of things that really we could have done different in terms of our handling of this virus.
And so, since they're not going to take care of us, we need to take care of us. By the help of God, we need to take care of ourselves because it's obvious and it's evident that we cannot listen to the media. The media is not going to tell us the truth. They're not going to tell us the whole truth. So we need to stay focused, stay prayerful, and stay careful. And so they paint the picture of everything that's normal. It's obvious that everything is not normal. And I've been saying this probably every show, that the numbers that they looked at to shut down, those numbers are triple and double, quadruple, and they're ready to open up. So we have to remain stay careful. To your point, my second point, the quarantine. And now I'm saying that if you feel like you've been exposed, you don't need to take a test. Just quarantine yourself for 14 days. And it seems to me that seems to be the answer for everything is quarantine yourself for 2 weeks. They have some things break out in the schools where they shut down for 2 weeks. So now they're saying you don't even have to get tested. Just still away. Not still away, but quarantine yourself for two weeks. And see what happens. It just lets me know that they're not in the accuracy of the test. They're not. They don't have too much trust and belief
Wow.
in the accuracy of the test.
Not only that, I think the other side of looking at that is if we don't test you, we don't get a positive. So now our numbers are dropping, and that gives us a basis to stand on in terms of opening the economy back up. So now we're telling you not to test because really we don't want to admit or know that you're positive. Just stay at home. And then you look at that and you say, how many people will stay at home and die because they don't know when it's too late to go to the hospital. So I think that's something that it's okay to say that to a young, healthy person, but when you make a general announcement like that, you're putting people's lives at stake, and you're endangering people's lives because they don't understand that you may get to a point where your oxygen level is too low to ask for help, especially if you live alone.
In 2 weeks' time, 14 days. And if you think about it, when it originally started, they were sending people home. They wouldn't even test them. And so now we're right back to that, square one. They don't want to test you. They really don't want the number to be known.
No, and it's not only is it financially motivated, it's politically motivated. Because now you have this race for the White House that wants Trump does not want to admit that he has not handled this virus correctly. So he doesn't want to continue to see an increase in numbers getting closer to the election because now he has to be able to come up and say, oh, we're doing great. The numbers are going down. So now they're saying, wait a minute, we got to slow down on these tests. So we have to really think and be ahead of the game because they're playing us.
Right.
Nothing has changed. They're controlling what they allow to get out.
And he said 2 months ago, stop testing.
Oh, yeah.
Stop testing, because as long as you test, the numbers are going to go up. But this is interesting. Over 1 million small businesses have closed. And Also, larger businesses have filed bankruptcy, such as Hertz, GNC, JCPenney's, Chuck E. Cheese's. Oh, I love Chuck E. Cheese's. Oh, no.
Germ fest.
Brooks Brothers, Anne Klein. She only made it for skinny people anyway, so. Lane Bryant. Oh, no, Lane Bryant is closed. What? Men's Warehouse. That's where the church men buy their suits. Oh, Jesus. Jose A. Banks and Lord and Taylor. Oh, Lord, what's going to happen to our hats now? These people are literally filing bankruptcy. 46 million people have lost their jobs.
And it really, those are the big boys, if you will.
Yeah.
Really, the mom and pop shops.
Oh, my goodness.
Has really taken a hit.
Yeah.
And if we wasn't in the healthcare area, we would have, and we have taken a hit. But the everyday mom and pops, and it's not really too many mom and pops, but the small business and the people that work for the small businesses, small companies, have taken a hit.
And also, I was listening to the news, and they said because South Bend, Mishawaka is a tourist city, that we have suffered a great loss with our local businesses here in South Bend, unto the point only 43% of them are functioning. And they're only functioning at less than 50% of the normal income. So it's hitting South Bend very, very hard, and Mishawaka.
It's hitting the region, the
Absolutely.
state. Things is changing.
Yeah.
Things has changed. And so now they're going to try to present the picture of everything's okay. And that's where the danger lies. Because everything is obvious. Everything is not okay. But the media now is trying to patch over things to make you feel like it's okay to get out and to live life as usual.
And for some people, it's not going to take much encouragement.
Right, because we're past cabin fever.
Mm-hmm.
We're past we itching to get out. which is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
And so the best we can do is stay careful and ride this wave out. This too shall pass. This will pass. But we need to stay vigilant, stay prayerful and careful. And when God get ready, this will ride over. So they're saying, if you feel like you've been exposed, don't get tested, just quarantine yourself for 14 days, 2 weeks. And the only thing that's been consistent in the last, 4 or 5, 6 months is this 2-week period. Remember that the two-week wave. Everything else is a change. But this 2 week span of time. So,
Well, and just to interject, now you think about people have become comfortable now with their stockpiles of toiletries and groceries. So you still have the risk of needing to quarantine for 2 weeks. So what are we doing if you now have been exposed and you have to quarantine? Do you have what you need? Or are you still going out? So are people really following it?
Right.
Or are they ordering in and then exposing someone? So there's a lot of things that aren't being discussed because people aren't talking about needing to have supplies in the house anymore. All of that's passed. The stores have stuff in stock, so everything is back to normal in that regard.
and that's why we gotta be careful and focused, because can you afford to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks? I mean, honestly, so we dealing with people that can't afford to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks.
And if one person has to quarantine themselves, the whole house needs to.
And so that's why we have to take care of each other and ourselves, because it's just everyday people, everyday life. I can't take 2 weeks off. So
They're not going to tell you that.
I'm not gonna tell anybody.
Because they're no longer waiving all of your bills and giving assistance. These people are now, the government has cut the additional funding for unemployment. So would you go in and tell your boss you have it if you can't pay your bills? No, they're going to work sick.
So that's why it's not normal. So we cannot go back to normal because we're faced with a whole lot of issues that has nothing to do with us. But at the end of the day, will affect us if we think and act like everything is normal. Again, we thank you for tuning in. I hope that we're saying something to help you. We have so much to pray for, but then we have so much to be thankful for. And we just thank God for keeping us and covering us, and giving us how and what to do.
And I saw in the news where there was a husband and wife, they both had corona, and they didn't have children or family, and evidently they didn't have friends that could go shopping, getting the necessities for them. And they went, every 2 weeks they went shopping, and they were sick. So you'll run into people like that also.
So that's something to consider. So we have to stay focused. We have to stay focused. Because there's so many other outside variables that's out there that you may not think about, you may not know, but ultimately we pray for God's protection,
Right.
that He sees us through it all. If you have any questions, please write it in the chat room.
Dr. Jada did say that you can order your groceries and your essentials online and pay for it. And then they can deliver it. You have to be careful with that, but it's better than you getting out and going to the store, going, to pick up things, and even to your medication, you can have your medication delivered to you.
Yes, curbside service. A lot of places is doing curbside service. A lot of places is doing delivery. I know as a pharmacy, we do free delivery. We will deliver to your house, and we will throw it in the mail and send it to you, no matter where you are. And so, for free. So no additional cost. So look up Healthy You Pharmacy, and just a little plug for our store. But there's different services that you can use to stay out of harm's way.
And be careful too, especially to the senior citizens. I receive calls from people that want information from me concerning what drugs I'm taking, and they want to give me discounts which are not always legitimate, but there are ways for senior citizens to receive a discount on your medication, but you have to seek it through the right agencies. So just because someone calls you does not mean it's legitimate. Give Dr. Jada a call and she can run you through that. That's one of her expertise also.
Yes, being a pharmacy, we can meet and beat your pharmaceutical needs. I think that's enough for the commercial for but going back to the drugs, there are two drugs that keeps coming up. And I'm not talking about bleach and Lysol. But there's two drugs that keep coming up. I'm not going to even try to murder the names of these drugs. But Sister Jada, can you tell us a little bit about these drugs?
So they're continuing. We talked a little bit about dexamethasone, and that's a steroid. A lot of people are familiar with steroids like prednisone, if you've heard of that, or Medrol dose packs. A lot of people take that when they get have an allergic reaction or something like that. It kind of helps to control the immune response to different conditions. So that's one of the drugs that they're continuing to use. But again, a lot of these drugs aren't used until these patients are very severe and already in the hospital. So these are drugs that are not indicated if you're healthy enough to walk into the pharmacy and ask for it. Okay, so just to put that in mind, they're using these in the severest of patients. They're only doing these trials in the patients that are already really sick. And they, some of the studies have shown that patients about 2,000 patients were given a low daily dose of dexamethasone by IV, and they showed an improvement of about 23% improvement versus those who didn't get it in terms of fatality and overall symptoms and recovery time with that drug being on board. So that's a promising study. However, again, it's in patients who are already kind of very sick. So not something that's going to prevent the spread or be something that you would be able to get a prescription for from your doctor and walk into the pharmacy and get. The other one is remdesivir. That's an antiviral. And remember, this is a virus, so it affects the replication of the virus in the body, and again, used in hospital studies in the end. And that also is kind of showing improvement in these patients and preventing them from getting as severe. So they're just continuing to do things to try to control the symptoms and severity of the disease while they're still working on the vaccine. So at this time, there is nothing to prevent it, and there is nothing to cure it. We're simply controlling the severity of the disease and or the fatality of the disease, if that makes sense. So a lot of the hype is pushed by the drug manufacturers. They're in clinical trial phases still, so they start off, with small groups that are controlled, and then they continue to grow the number of people who they expose to the medication to try to say that this can be replicated, and you have to look at the risk versus the benefit. So they have to see if in these controlled studies, if the side effects are going to be too severe to continue pushing them out. So that's what they're looking at as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the control study, how the people that's picked, the best case scenario, meaning that these drugs wouldn't just be given to anybody?
So in the medical field, usually studies are double-blinded. And they do that because they want true feedback on the effects of the medication. And when we say double-blinded, basically the person giving the medication and the person receiving the medication won't know if they've been given a real drug or what we call a placebo. We'll call that a sugar pill. And so that's how they can truly say if the drug is effective, because we know a lot of things are mind over matter. If you think you got a drug, you may improve. So we know that we've had studies where people are given sugar tablets and they showed improvement. Well, that's why we do a double-blind studies. And in these studies that we're talking about, we know that these aren't double-blind studies because we already know that this subset of patients have this illness, and we're comparing giving a drug versus not giving a drug. Now, that's hard to show the effectiveness because you can't say what would have happened in those particular patients if you didn't give it. They could have been the percentage of patients that were going to improve anyway. You know what I mean? And we don't see the comorbidities. We don't see if they have underlying health conditions. We don't see their race. We don't see their age. And a lot of these studies, so sometimes it's not a clear picture on the effectiveness in situations like this when they're rushing to push the drugs out.
Now, this is funny because when I'm listening to what you're saying, my tooth stops hurting as soon as I get to the dentist.
Oh, that's Lord.
It hurt all night, but as soon as I walk in that office, it stops hurting. I can't even tell you which one I'm having a problem with. So is that the same as mind over matter or what?
Absolutely.
I don't even need the dentist.
Absolutely.
When I pull up in the parking lot, I'm healed. I'm delivered.
Yeah, our brain, our mind is a powerful thing. So you have to know that sometimes people truly will improve, and people sometimes really aren't that sick. You know, sometimes people are faking. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you are told, okay, if you take this, and you see it in kids all the time, mm-hmm. Oh, let me kiss it. Mm-hmm. Tears gone, I'm better. You know, so it's just a matter of what you think is going to happen when this is applied, and you have that experience. We see it.
Let me ask you this: so if I've been exposed, mm-hmm. Can I come and get some dexamethasone?
No. And that's why I was very clear. You cannot come and get it because they're actually, the studies that are being done, they're giving these drugs IV, number one. Mm-hmm. So I can't come and give you a prescription and it's going to make you better because it's not indicated or approved for that use. Now, if you had some dexamethasone tablets at home in your cabinet already, can I say that it would help you breathe better? It probably would, because when you have a severe asthmatic or you have someone with COPD, they'll use steroids for an exacerbation. So some of these improvements are just natural physical improvements that would happen when there's inflammation in the lung anyway. So that's why I said a lot of these studies, you can't really, you know, go put all your eggs in that basket, because the effects that those drugs have on the body is going to naturally cause you to have some improvements anyway. Think about a steroid. A steroid is going to pump you up and it's going to help your body fight off and or control a certain response. So it may potentially mask something that's going on and you may feel better, and then you crash when they take you off of it. So,
you know, and I asked that question because the media has become a psychological placebo, mm-hmm. to where they just throw stuff out there, mm-hmm. and you're like, oh, it's okay, mm-hmm. and you can't even get these drugs. Mm-hmm. You know, they keep coming up, and you can't even get it. And if you get that sick, you may not meet the qualifications for the study. So you see the game the media plays, that even if you get this sick, you may not meet the qualifications to be in that study.
And some of the studies were only happening in the cities that had the large outbreaks of the CDC, you know, or the FDA. They only approved you to say, they said, okay, you can use this drug in this severe outbreak in New York because we know that there's nothing else we can do. These people are dying anyway. Go for it. You know, and that's kind of the type of things that you were seeing. and they slowly are starting to introduce the oral form of the dexamethasone, but there's not enough, evidence yet. And again, these people are all hospitalized. These are people.
Last case, best case scenario.
Exactly.
At best, a psychological placebo. Because now all you see is these drugs, and you're like, well, okay, we got a cure, or we got something that will help. In which there's still no cure, and really no help.
And there was some studies done in China already with remdesivir that did have placebo and blind studies, and in studies that were blind, they said that they didn't show a significant time difference in improvement for those who received the real drug versus the fake drug. So that's why I said right now there's nothing that I would hang my hat on if it were myself or a family member to say, give this to my loved one because I know it's going to help. As a pharmacist today, I can't tell you that I would give you this because I know it would do something.
So the best cure is still being careful and cautious and focus on what you have to do. Getting in and getting out.
Absolutely.
I remember we would have gloves at the gas station. Little bits. No more bits. No more wipes. So we have to be vigilant and stay careful for ourselves. God bless you, Sister Carmen. Carmen said that Good RX is a good source of prescription discount.
We're cheaper than Good RX, Ms. Carmen. But it is. Yes, if you use another pharmacy, definitely check into that. It's online and it's free. And it'll also compare prices for all of the big chains for you. And it'll tell you where it's cheapest.
And then we can beat those prices. So try healthy pharmacy.
All right.
God bless you, Mother Tiggs. God bless you. Love you. Good to see you. Good to see you in the chat room. Again, we thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. We have so much for you. We have a big surprise coming up for you. So please stay tuned at NJTV. Lastly here, I want to talk about this twin-demic that's coming up this season. And I don't think it's anything new. I think this twin-demic we had last year, or the end of last year. But the media is throwing terms around the twin-demic. So can you school us on the twin-demic?
Well, everybody knows that twin means two. Endemic is what, they're shortening pandemic or epidemic to say you're going to have these two viruses circulating or potentially affecting people at the same time and causing a lot of death, sickness, and pressure on the health industry. So you know that we already have overwhelming issues with not only PPE, but hospital beds, ventilators, nurses, doctors, and now you have cold and flu season. So when you think about in 2019 and 2020, last flu season, in the United States, they considered it to be a mild flu season. That being said, we had 39 to 56 million cases in the United States. Okay? That led to 740,000 hospitalizations in between 24 to 62. I don't know why the big range, because they can't pin it based on comorbidities probably, but 62,000 deaths because of the flu in a mild season. So when you look at that, coupled with what's already happening with coronavirus, if this will be even a moderate to severe flu season, we are in trouble. Because when you can't control, number one, there's no vaccine for coronavirus. So you can't control the spread of that in that regard. But when you can't control how fast and how it spreads, and the population won't be able to really distinguish the difference of the symptoms for some of these things, it'll cause more problems. And yes, you can have both at the same time. Because they enter the body through, they attach to different receptors in the body. They're both viruses, but they attach in different ways. So your body can have two viruses at the same time, which will be very bad. And not only that, you have to look at making decisions for yourself in terms of flu prevention early. Now, a lot of people don't believe in flu shots. If you've never had a flu shot, or if you've had a flu shot in the past and you said, oh, I still got the flu, you have to think about, was it as severe as it would have been if you didn't have a flu shot? And what will happen this year if you don't get a flu shot and you get flu and corona? So that is what they're talking about when they talk about the twin endemics, because both of these viruses are hitting their peak this fall.
Question: should I get the flu shot,
Well,
or should, if I get the twin endemic, do I treat the flu because that's treatable, or should I quarantine for 14 days?
neither of them are curable. So you're treating symptoms on both.
Or
So-
treatable,
Right.
more treatable,
Manageable.
manageable.
Okay. So the thing is, when you think about the symptoms, cough, runny nose, fever, who would know which one it is? The biggest distinguisher factor would be the time between the onset of symptoms and the potential exposure, if you can figure that out. Because we know that you may not develop symptoms for coronavirus for up to 14 days, whereas with flu, you develop them within 1 to 4 days. So you're going to get sick faster. So if you know you went out in a large public gathering, or you went somewhere where you probably shouldn't have, and you get sick immediately, it's probably the flu. If you get sick days after or up to 2 weeks after, it's probably corona. So that's one of the ways that you'll be able to tell the difference. The fever is generally higher with corona as well for most people so far. And corona symptoms last longer, and you're contagious longer. So all of those things are factors. The biggest thing I will tell you is, if there were a year that you were considering trying the flu shot, it would be this year, in my opinion. Because in my opinion, if they came out with a coronavirus vaccine tomorrow, we know more about the flu vaccine than you will ever know about the coronavirus vaccine. So it's safer to go with what you know. You know the coronavirus. I'm sorry, you know the flu vaccine. You know nothing about the coronavirus vaccine. I wouldn't try anything new. You know what I mean? If you were saying, should I try this or should I try that, or should I do both? Well, that's where I am with it. I would stick to what I'm familiar with and do the flu shot if you're going to do anything. Of course, again, staying out of the public and trying to protect yourself is my number one recommendation. But if you have comorbidities and you're already high risk, elderly, I would definitely recommend protecting yourself.
I have a question. How long will the flu season last?
The flu season lasts generally through April. Late March, April. Because sometimes it doesn't peak until late February. We start giving the vaccine, some places started giving it in August. We recommend you get it in about October because it takes time for the immunity to actually reach its peak in your system. So by the time it actually really starts to hit in that November, December, January, you have a strong enough immune response. So the flu virus shifts from time to time. You may see the peak in December, you may see the peak in February. So it does go all the way, almost in line with the fall to winter.
But the corona, we don't see an end to that.
They have not been able to correlate that with temperature or seasonal or anything like that at this time.
And so we have a lot to pray for because they're trying to get children back into the buildings.
Absolutely.
And as parents, we do have the prerogative to continue on with the e-learning. The end of last year, February, the flu went through Asia's school, and just about everyone in that school caught the flu. But with the second wave and all of this, the pandemic coming, it could be a bad situation. So we just stay prayerful and careful. God will lead us.
And you have to look at the holidays coming. You want to be with your friends or family, you have to be smart. Because that's gonna be another avenue of the virus spreading. Because we're gonna get comfortable. And I'm speaking of what is this, Labor Day coming up? I'm speaking of Labor Day. When you think about it, Thanksgiving is just around the corner and Christmas. So that is going to be, and that's why you see some of these viruses really peak because people start to travel, they start to be with their loved ones, and it's going to show itself if it's really going to truly be a problem in that November, December time.
Two questions, and you may or you may not know, but in your professional opinion, when is the second wave to hit?
I don't know if we ever got the first one.
Okay.
It
It's just a matter of
they were saying October, and that has shifted because the first wave kind of continued to go up. I don't know if we can call it a second wave if it's a plateau, because if you don't go back on down, how do you call it a second wave? We haven't really gone back down to even go back up, and that's what I see as the biggest threat. Because if you only continue to go higher,
so then when would you see the curve? Or when would the curve arrive? Is that after the first wave or after the second?
well,
Because, and I only ask that because when you think of a wave comes in sections. So something goes up and comes down. And then, is that how
that's how it normally happens with diseases, with viruses and with things like that. But I'm not seeing it where it spikes and spikes and spikes, which is what's happening with this virus because our behaviors are directly causing the numbers. It's a direct correlation, and if you think about what's happening in terms of our national leaders, we just witnessed 1,000+ people at the White House with no mask on and no test done. Now, when you think about that, 2 weeks from now, we'll see people sick. And those people came from all over for that event.
And there's already been recorded people that had gotten corona from attending or that attended a Trump rally.
Wow. And they'll keep that quiet. Because it's all a game. So as long as you see that happening, and remember, we on the flip side of that, you have all of the social unrest and the protests. And there's a lot of things that are changing what we would have potentially been able to predict as a natural curve. Because we wouldn't have been able to predict that 1,000 people will march here, and this gathering will happen in this city, and this will happen. So all of that is changing the normal pattern of what you would see with a disease like that.
So again, we just have so much to pray for. Pray that you all are continue to be safe and blessed and prosperous. This is still the year of victory.
Yeah.
I am claiming it, grasping it with all my might. This is the year of victory. I would like to give a shout out to all of our mothers, our church mothers, our Bush, Mother Marsh, Mother Triplet, Mother Crennington, Mother Higgins, and Mother Tiggs, Mother Evans. We want to say hi and we love you to all of our Mother Pearl. We want to say hi and we love you to all of our mothers, and we pray that all is well. If this ministry have been a blessing to you, we ask that you would be a blessing to us. We have big dreams and big endeavors that we have for the people of God. New Jerusalem, stay tuned. We have a big surprise coming up for you all, and I know you will love it. But please stay tuned. Please be a blessing to us. Help us to continue our mission, and that is to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. That is to inform, to empower, and encourage the people of God. Feel the call, and it is our job. And so, as long as it takes, as I guess we ain't got nothing else to do. We will be here proclaiming the goodness, the greatness, and the glory of God. And so we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for watching. We hope that something was said to spike your intellect, to give you something to go. Don't take my word for it. Go research it yourself and look it up yourself. And so we need and have to remain prayerful and cautious. So if this ministry has been a blessing, we ask that you would plant seed in this grounds. I say all the time that the gospel is free, but it takes money to get it out. And so we have big dreams and endeavors, and we would like to provide a professional and polished program for you. So please be a blessing to us. You can do that by the Square, you can do that by the Cash App, or you can do that by the mail. So we thank you for your prayers, your contributions, and your talking to us and telling us how you are. Again, we're praying for you, and we hope that you're praying for us. Please keep in contact with us. I want you to know that I miss you all. I miss you and love you. And as soon as the demands of society has lifted just a little bit, it don't have to be much, just a little bit, we're going to come together and praise God and worship God together. Again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Mother Carmen. Thank you, Lady and Pastor Jackson. Thank you, New Jerusalem. Thank you, world, for tuning in. And I hope that something was said to help you. Until next time, God bless you. God keep you as I pray.